welcome to another episode of Wine Chisme. And we have my friend Rosalie Ennes with us today. Hola, Rosalie.
Hi everyone.
So let me just tell you, it's been a dramatic conclusion. Rosalie, you're the last interview before we hit 300 episodes.
So excited.
I know, and we have like gone through so much to uh actually record, but I'm so excited we're finally here. We finally get to talk about your book, how it came out, your evolution in regards to like all of the things. So I'm so excited to finally do this. I'm so sorry it took so long.
All good. The universe brought us here on today, July 21st, and I know the episode will be your 299, so super excited about that.
I know we are literally recording the day before it comes out, which the only time I ever really do that is for our month end chisme episodes. But sometimes you got to do what you got to do. And, it was my fault. I'm going to take the blame for why it took so long. But what matters is that we're here now. That's what matters. All right, let me give you a little bit of background on Rosalie. Rosalie Ennes is a business and risk advisor, a two-time award-winning author, speaker, and founder of is it I never even asked you, is it Portecua?
Portecua. Yeah,
Okay,
Portecua.
Portecua.
Portuguese Ecuadorian. So
Okay,
not to the cultura.
there you go. Consulting with over 15 years of experience as a risk, finance, and audit leader. She helps impact driven entrepreneurs navigate their risks and build profitable, sustainable businesses that leave long-term legacy. She recently added author to her identities when she decided to write a business book to amplify her mission and diversify the publishing industry. Her book, Build a Business con Confianza. I can't talk today. I'm having a hard time speaking English, Spanish, actually any language. Probably the language I can speak most at this moment is like baby talk.
All good. Build a beautiful
Confianza,
business with confianza.
which is boasting over 100 five-star reviews. She uses storytelling and approachable messaging to speak to the diverse entrepreneur experience and teaches us how to embrace risk as we build our business. When she is not disrupting the entrepreneur landscape with her services and her book, Rosalie is passionate about sharing her experiences as a female and Latina professional leader and author to speak on business development and community topics that support us in moving forward together and reaching our full potential as the powerhouses and change makers we were meant to be. She is a Bay Area native and proud Ecuadorian Portuguese American who lives in New York City and has been featured in Medium, Forbes, Berkeley, Haas Magazine, and Latinas Front and Center, as well as recognized as a woman of color entrepreneur making bold moves and on the NASDAQ tower in Times Square. She's a CPA, CIA, and graduate of UC Berkeley with degrees in business administration and Latin American studies. Girl, you have all of the
Oh,
things.
wow. That was a mouthful. Sorry for making you read that, but
No,
excited.
but
Nice
I
summary.
love reading it back to people because sometimes we forget, right, of the things that we do. And we might read it. Like I'm sure you read your bio. I've read my bio. And I'm like, okay, yeah, that sounds like it. And then when you have somebody, there's just something about somebody reading it back to you that you're like, damn, I've done a lot. Wow. And that's why I love to read bios with people on because I love them. I love you to hear like how amazing you actually are. Because
Yeah, I've
sometimes
done a
we
lot.
forget.
No, it's awesome. Awesome. Thank you for the introduction.
Yes. Okay. So I know today you are drinking agua. Tell us why you're only drinking agua today. I know you do drink, but I never force anybody to
I
drink on the
do.
podcast.
I do. I would be drinking wine, but I'm on a little bit of a cleanse because I've been on a World Cup bender, I would say, for the last month, watching a lot of games, drinking some. I'm actually drinking out of one of the World Cups that I got from Casamigos. So now it's become my water cup. So doing a little bit of a cleanse, but I do love a good red, good white, a good rosé. Like I am not picky.
Yes. And I know she drinks because we have drank together. When
Absolutely.
she's
You've
been
always
in
been
San
welcoming.
Diego. Yeah.
Always been welcoming when I'm in San Diego, and I do appreciate that very much. It's nice to have
Oh, of
company there.
course. I mean, I'm so happy. Um, it's so funny how we actually met in person because you were here for an event and you're like, you just sent out a message, hey, I'm in San Diego if anybody's going to be here. And I was like, girl, yeah, I could walk over and meet you. And that's how we met. I just walked over to Gas Lamp and we had a
Yeah.
couple of cocktails, walked around, and I was like, do you need a ride to the airport?
You are so good about rides to the airport. I appreciate you. That's why you're high on my friend list. Like anybody who does that, that's a true friend. So
Oh, I mean, it's so easy for me too. I'm not even gonna lie. I'm here. I'm super close to the airport. I don't want anybody that I know to have to like struggle. And, if there's anything I can help with, of course I'm happy to do that. Today I am drinking a glass of Seis Solis White Blend. It is a Grenache Blanc and Albariño blend. Legit one of my favorite white blends ever. So, salud, amiga.
salud. I'll pretend I'm drinking wine.
It is. It's this white blend is just so refreshing, especially when it's hot, which we're in this heat wave
Mhm.
here in San Diego, and we're getting a lot more humidity than we normally get. And so it's one of those days where you're just like, oh, weather. So this glass, I'm drinking this for me and him.
Nice. I love it. You'll have to have two now.
Yeah, I'll have to have another one. No, it's lovely. And you're in New York and it's like thunderstorming over there.
Yes, it was so humid this morning, and now it's thunderstorming. It'll probably be sunny later. The weather's been all over the place.
But you know what? At least it'll feel better because that
Yeah,
humidity, like once it rains, that like helps that humidity and it doesn't feel
yeah.
as sticky and everything. I know for me, I'm just like, just rain, just rain. We need it anyways, but
Mm,
it's almost like don't bring me this humidity. Just freaking rain it out so we can get back to normal programming.
absolutely.
So I am super excited. I have been very fortunate to be around you, like when you were doing your book launch tour, when you have been here, and I've seen you when I was in New York. So I love that. But growing up, you grew up in the Bay Area. You grew up in kind of like what I would consider um the hub of finances on the West Coast in the Bay Area. I really wouldn't consider LA that. I would consider more the Bay Area, San Francisco, kind of that area. So tell me how it was growing up in that area, being a Latina in that area, and what you like your relationship with money or your family's relationship with of money with growing up.
Yeah. So yeah, he grew up in the Bay Area and like Silicon Valley, like you said, like kind of the finance hub. It's very metropolitan area, very diverse. So I definitely appreciated that growing up. So you saw a lot of different backgrounds. There were a lot of Latinos, a lot of Asian, a lot of Black people. Like we had basically everything. And actually my high school was even more diverse than where maybe like white people were actually the minority, which was very curious and interesting. But I think I mean, it exposed me to the different cultures and also just different money perspectives on like how people spend money. I also, besides the diversity that I grew up in terms of people, like within my family, since I come from Ecuadorian Portuguese background, first gen on one side, second gen on the other. From one side, it was like I think from for me, money definitely wasn't like abundant on either side, and it was very like you have to spend your money smartly, you have to save, but you also have to have experiences. So like on my dad's side it was more like let's save and be smart with our money. On my mom's side it was more like let's spend on experiences. Like we don't have that much for like the day to day, but let's go travel. Like we have to go travel to Ecuador every summer. Like and every couple of years we would go and do a different trip because she did want us to travel as well. So we did like a trip to Hawaii, I think in Spain, like while we were growing up, which was really cool. And then the other summers we would do Ecuador. So like for her, it was like all about travel, all about being with family, just being outside. Whereas with my dad, it was like, let's save, like, let's, stay home. Let's like, have a good household and all of that. And so, I mean, yeah, I would say my relationship with money was that it was not abundant, and that you had to be smart with it, but that experiences were important. And I mean, they're definitely, I think, were times since my parents are divorced. I don't know if that came across, but yeah, I have the one house and the other house. So they divorced when I was young. So I grew up with divorced parents. And so it was always like, yeah, one parent paid child support to the other. So then it was like, well, what are you using this money for? And so you had to be very conscious of money. I think that was probably the kind of takeaway for me. But I think having both sides really then growing up when I had my own money made me very conscious of like, let me find balance. Like for me, it's always been about balance between like spending money, saving money, like going out, staying in, like having nice things, but also having good experiences. So yeah, I think I've pretty balanced kind of balanced background. And I think as we've grown up and learned more about money too, it's like, how can we progress and build generational wealth? How can we take risks appropriately
Yeah.
when we're growing our money? And just do better than our previous generations, and also give back to our parents, both mom and dad, and the family as well. When you go back to Ecuador and all of that, so it's really how did we? I learned how to spend smartly, then spend money, on myself and on others in order to better the community and leave myself in a better place and future generations in a better place.
No, I think that it's always interesting when you have one household that, that's a little bit like looser with the tight with the purse strings than another, because I'm sure as a child, then sorry, that was my phone that rang. I forgot to put myself on do not disturb. So it was my mom. She can wait. I can call her back.
I didn't hear anything, so okay.
But just the fact that I found it interesting because when you were saying that, I instantly thought it was your like the Latino side, like the Ecuadorian side that was going to be a little bit tighter with the purse strings. So it was interesting to hear that it's opposite, but just the fact that it makes you aware at a young age of, oh, money is a factor in everything. Because I think so often, our parents try and give us the best childhood they can with whatever they have, right? And sometimes we don't think that, and we were definitely growing up very middle class, and there were times when we would just tell my mom, just write a check, and mom's like, that's not how it works. That's
What
not
does it
how
feel
yeah.
treat? Like that's the yeah.
But to start being aware at a young age, but not only aware, but the fact that maybe we don't have as much materially one place, but we're doing these experiences instead, I think gives like it definitely forms a foundation of how you start viewing money. When, like, what was your first job actually? What was your first job? How old were you?
It was in, I mean, like there's like different levels, I guess, of first job. Like in high school, I did do like babysitting and tutoring, but then in college, I was at a call center. So I did call center for like raising money for the university, from alumni, so calling alumni. So I worked at a call center, and then I was a dermatologist receptionist for a period. So those were kind of my two first jobs in college, I would say.
When did you realize like the difference of your parents? Because I think when we're young, when we start getting our own money, after, at least for me, I'm like started being way more careful of where I was spending my money. So when you started bringing home your own money, even if it was in high school babysitting and tutoring, were you starting to get that like what like were you just free with like now I can get whatever I want, or were you more like, maybe I don't want that anymore because it's coming out of my pocket?
Probably a combination of both. Like I do remember my mom took me to open like a checking account in high school. So we had one that she would deposit some money into, and my dad would as well. And so it's like back in the day when before Chase, when there was Washington Mutual. So I still have
Oh yeah.
the old routing number and like the same checking account number and all of that, when it was WAMU. So yeah, so I was good about saving, and it was kind of instilled that, yeah, it has to be a balance. So like some things I would splurge on, other things I'd be like, yeah, I don't need all five colors of this thing or all five like editions. Like I'm just gonna get my own. It's also wild to me, like I didn't have a phone until basically freshman year of college. Like, I mean, back in the day, and like my brother who was younger than me had a phone before me. Um, and so, yeah, I think it does start to hit you like once it's your own money. So just a little more conscious of it for sure, but knowing that I need
Yeah.
to save.
So what was the reason? Because I think that when we're going to college and everything, I think business administration and Latin American studies are very, I love that combination. But when, because obviously you eventually lose your job and everything, but tell me before we get to that point, what,
I'm
like,
straight up losing. I opened my first account and now I've lost my job.
I know. I know. There's gonna be, I swear there's gonna
There's
be,
a middle
we're
part
gonna connect the dots. We're gonna connect the dots. But I just want people to understand, like, because we all go through things. And so often when people are talking about it, we're talking about the successes and we're talking about, oh, this and that. But I think it's so important to talk about those in between moments, right? You decide you're going into business administration, which I think is a very fairly common major, but you pair that with Latin American studies. What was your anticipation of how you were going to use that? And was there a relationship to money that ever entered into those thoughts of, okay, maybe I do this because of this or this?
Yeah, I mean, I chose those two as the combo because I wanted to do international business. And I always knew like I wanted to use my languages of Spanish and Portuguese within business as well in that type of environment. So hopefully I could find a corporate job where I worked in the US or maybe where I had like stints where I would go abroad. So that's why I chose Latin American Studies because it had both languages. It also had like the history, the economy, the culture, like different types of classes. Um, and the other reason was because I wanted to not just work abroad, but study abroad while I was in college. So I ended up going to Spain, to Cordoba. And so that was another reason I could like overlap classes. So it all worked out. So I chose Latin American studies, did business administration. Um, and I would say so the idea was that I would be able to work abroad, and it ended up working out because when I went to KPMG, which is where I started my career in accounting, they had, even during the summer internship, they had an abroad internship opportunity. So I ended up going actually a month to Spain and also working abroad. And then once I started with them, I was able to be there for I think a couple years. And then I started looking into doing a rotation where I would officially go work abroad and use the languages. That actually didn't work out. So that was like another pivot before the layoff that comes several years later. But I ended up finding out that if you did, so I was doing accounting and external audit. I ended up switching to internal audit, which meant you worked for a company. So I found out that if you work for the company and a company that's global, you can also go and audit their different offices around the world. So that's why I ended up, and I wanted to move to New York. So that was on my goals. So I ended up moving to New York um, with a prestigious global company for beauty. And then I got to work for them. And I would basically be in New York for 2 weeks and then be abroad for 2 weeks. And it was all around the world. And I don't speak every language, but anytime we went to Latin America or Spain, or Portugal, I got to be able to speak the language and use that in business too. So that's kind of how that combination came about. Um, and I mean, for me, like, yeah, all those have been super positive experiences because I always want to infuse cultura into, what you're doing, your day to day, and bring it in as an asset.
Yeah. As a CPA, which God bless CPAs who really know what they're doing, especially because Lord, I could not do like my eyes would glaze over looking at all of those numbers. Did you start getting a grasp of or how, because obviously you're working for businesses and everything, but how was that helping you for in because I will say this. Let me preface this with this. They always say doctors are the worst patients, right? Lawyers should never represent themselves. Tell me about the CPA experience in regards to how that did that make you view your money differently? Should you not do your own taxes? Should you take it to somebody else? Like, how does that work as a CPA?
You know,
Because as
that's
a PR person, I can't do my own PR.
Interesting. Yeah, that's an interesting question. I do my own taxes. I think as long as it's not complicated, you can do it. I'm not a specialty in tax as a CPA because you can have different specialties. But yeah, as long as it's simple enough, like you can do your own. I think you're still fine. So maybe it doesn't apply the same as like accountant or as doctor or lawyer as it does to like an accountant or CPA. I think I've always been conscious of money, like I mentioned growing up. And then I love numbers. I love spreadsheets. Like my eyes glaze over almost like in a good way, maybe I'll say. So like I look,
Yours get stars, mine
yeah,
go.
exactly.
"Roar."
So like I like when, I'm crunching the numbers or agreeing one thing to another, making like pivot tables of things and analyzing like, okay, maybe I could save money here, maybe I can make more money here, or maybe if I'm saving consistently, like my 401k potentially can grow to whatever amount. Um, so yeah, I think for me, it kind of strengthened my relationship with money, and it's probably why I went down the route of CPA, and business administration with a focus in accounting, so I could get the CPA. And then even in my jobs that I've had, like doing the audit, a lot of it is very financial because it's very much like how are people buying things from vendors? How are they paying them? Are they paying them on time? Like what are the days to pay? So it's all around numbers and kind of metrics. Like how do they pay payroll? Like how do they acquire customers? And like what's the pricing for this customer versus this customer? So like looking at all the numbers and the data helps inform a lot. And then it helps me kind of guide you in the business and say, okay, like you should take a risk here, like maybe start investing, maybe start hiring people, or maybe here you don't want to do that necessarily. And you can think a little bit more strategically about your investment. So I love numbers, I will say. I'm a numbers girl.
God bless you for that. I'm a word. I mean, for sure I'm a words person, right? So once I got past algebra, I was like algebra, I was good at. I loved algebra. I feel like algebra you use in your everyday life. But anything beyond that, like when I was in college and had to take statistics, I call statistics the math of the devil. I hate statistics. I had to take it twice.
Statistics is hard. And I'll tell you that I wanted to be a math major when I first went into college. And I took I started taking some more classes and I was like, no, like take me to business administration and Latin American studies. Like, I don't just want to focus on math. Like, that was going to be too much.
Oh, I have a friend who's a math teacher and she has her master's in math. Like, I'm just like, girl, I don't, I
That's
appreciate people
impressive.
who, yeah, I mean, I think though we always see somebody who has the strengths that we don't, we're like, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Right. Because it's hard, but you built a lot of other strengths beyond that. So I think that's really impressive. Take us through your journey of your like the things that you did with your job and eventually where like what happened when you got laid off. Was it due to the pandemic situation? Was it due to something else that made you ultimately pivot
Yeah.
into like, okay, I'm going to do something totally different, still using my background, but we moving hard.
Yes, absolutely. No. So, like I mentioned, it was very financial focused. So I was doing audits, but the great thing about doing the audits is that you learn about how the company works. So, like I mentioned, vendors, customers, like employees, you learn about tone at the top, you interact with top leaders, and you really understand how the company is working and how they make decisions. So on top of auditing and providing a report of like, hey, you're following this, you're not following this, maybe you're taking too much risk here, you're also learning how companies work. And so that really helped me with what I'm doing now, which is very much like holistic in terms of strategy, finances, processes, like how do you build a team, all of that. And so I spent 3 years at KPMG. Then I went for 8, 9 years to the prestigious or prestige beauty company. And then and by prestige and global that I mentioned earlier, like it was huge. And so I wanted to grow within there and build my skill set. But as you move up, like with any large company, you start to see kind of cracks or maybe misalignments that you don't necessarily agree with. And so I kind of already had in the back of my head, like, hey, I'm going to find something new. I want to do something where I have more impact, where maybe it's a smaller team as a company size so that I can actually interact with most people and get to know them. And so I ended up finding a really great role where I could build out the function. It was at that point probably like 250 maybe size company, whereas I was coming from a company of 10,000 people. So I really got to know a lot of people. It was like a hybrid model at that point. So this was all I guess it was kind of during pandemic when I left to the new role that I did. So at the new company, they were trying to change a lot. They were hiring a lot. I was part of that process. I hired two other people, and then it was great for a year. And then that was when like the big layoff happened. And so that's when it was more part of just them moving a little bit too fast on like what they wanted to do and like what they had the capacity to do. And so it was part of like more of a mass kind of layoff. It wasn't necessarily just myself or just my team. There were several teams that were impacted. But it was definitely a shock. It was very much a surprise. Like I think I knew leaving the other misaligned workplace, that companies don't necessarily, they have their own best interest at heart. They have their stakeholder and the profit at heart. At the new company, I kind of still was hopeful that it would be different. So experiencing that, then you're like, okay, like this company also similar. So then you kind of go like, okay, well, where can I create a space where I feel safe, where I can learn, where I can continue to grow, where I can make money? And so that's where I was like, I'm going to start my own business. Like at some point I wanted to, but that layoff kind of pivoted and I guess catapulted me into like, let me just start a business.
Hola, Wine Chisme familia. We've got some exciting news to share. The Wine Chisme now has a voicemail line. That's right, you can literally call us, leave your thoughts, questions, or even suggest topics you want us to dive into on future episodes. Whether you want to share how an episode resonated with you, or ask about previous wines we've featured, or even tell us about your own chisme, we want to hear your voice. Porque este podcast has always been about connection, and now we can make that connection even more real. So grab your phone and call us at 858-304-0266. Leave us a message, tell us your name, where you're calling from, and whatever's on your heart. Who knows, your voice might be featured on an upcoming episode. Because at the end of the day, Wine and Chisme is about all of us coming together, sharing our stories, and celebrating our community. Now, be a part of the podcast in a whole new way. Again, that number is 858-304-0266. We want to hear from you.
I
How
did.
does that, when something like that happens, because you're like, okay, I
Yeah.
know that this is misaligned at this company. I feel like this other company will be more aligned with my values. Then you see the other things happen, you get laid off. How does that affect you emotionally? Do you question before you decide to start your own business, or were you just like, okay, this is it? Or did you have to go through a grieving or like emotional process to before that even happened?
Yes. And now I wish I was drinking wine, but I'm going to stick with my water. But yeah, absolutely. Like to be honest, when it happened, I kept it. I think I only told two people and I didn't tell anyone in my family. Like it was just a shock. I actually was in Ecuador. And now I'm like flashing back to these moments. I was traveling in Ecuador when I got the news because it just so happened I had a vacation at that time. They had already, were full speed ahead on the
Oh,
layoff. So my team told me, hey, I think we're getting laid off. And I was like, what are you talking about? Because I hadn't been checking emails or anything. So I look at my emails and then I'm like, okay. And I was like, I also have the same like invite on my calendar as well. So yeah, I mean, we all ended up getting kind of laid off at that moment, but I was on vacation with my mom, with family, like we were in Ecuador. And so I didn't really want to tell anyone because I think I was still like in shock slash grief slash I don't want to burden anyone else. And I think that's very eldest daughter of like, I don't want to burden you. I also don't want to have to take on your disappointment and shock and
yes.
frustration because I can't absorb that right now. So it was kind of protecting them, but kind of protecting me as well. So I didn't tell them while I was on vacation. It was like another week, 2 weeks. And then I came back to New York. My mom went back to the Bay Area. And so and my dad was in the Bay Area and I just, it was kind of easy to be in New York and not say anything. And I was like, I just want to leave. Let me go somewhere. So I went to Puerto Rico for 3 weeks with another friend who had gotten laid off as well and just kind of decompressed and like grieved, like felt the shock of it, felt all the feelings. And then when I came back from Puerto Rico is when I finally told my mom and my dad and like my family. And yeah, so it was definitely an interesting process. Like everyone goes through it differently, but you believe so much that a company has your best interest at heart because you spend so much time there, especially when we were all in person and this job was still hybrid, that you just you feel disappointed. Like you wanted more from that company, like you gave it your all. Um, so yeah, it was a lot of grief.
Was there fear involved in that? Because obviously you go from having this stable job and everything, and obviously stable is so relative these days
Nothing is
after the
stable.
pandemic, after 2020. It's like, is there such thing as a stable job? But also, you knowing you have a paycheck coming in, especially living in New York and how high a cost it is and everything. It's an emotional time, you're grieving, but was there fear also there? And how did you personally deal with that, if there was?
Yeah, I mean, going back to the original question of like my money and like how I felt about it, how I grew up with it, I knew that saving was a part of the job because you don't know what's going to happen. So saving was part of like my risk management of like I need to make sure I have like a safety net, and make sure that I have 3, 6, 9 months like saved up, and that I do have a retirement, set up as well, which ideally you don't take out, but it's something else you can fall back on. So they did give us a severance. So I mean, there absolutely was fear, but I think since I had in my head that I wanted to start the business and I was like, I have my safety net, I have my extra safety net if I need to tap into retirement, like, let me go at this. Like, let me try this for 6 months, a year and see how it goes and see if that's what I want to do full time, if I can make something happen. Like, I had enough of a safety net where I felt comfortable. So it was once I got over the initial grief and shock, it was less fear and more like excitement because also like as an adult and like in your like 30s, like 40s, like you don't get a retirement until usually later. So to me it was kind of nice to have many months off and to be able to dream about what I wanted the business to look like, what services I wanted to offer, like what the colors would be, what the name would be, like what the logo, all of that. And so it was kind of nice to just dream a little bit and have that freedom and like creativity as well, because I'm always very much in the numbers and there's some creativity there, but like building a business is a whole other creative worlds that you're learning about. So yeah, less fear, more excitement. But yeah, I mean, there's a little bit of fear of like, where are you going to get customers? Are people going to want your services? All of that. Um, but not so much fear of like jumping into the actual process of opening a business.
So when you decided you were going to open a business, was it okay? Was it basically the same thing that you were already doing, but just on your own? And when you're small in a startup and you're competing against these very large companies, how did you even get started doing that?
Yeah, so similar to what I was doing, but I really pivoted the audience because I didn't want to do it for corporate, like public companies. Like I wanted to work with small businesses, with Latina owned businesses, with Black owned businesses. Like that's so it was more adapting the skill set and what I think can transfer that they can also use to build their business. Because we know that our businesses are, when we're starting them, we're underfunded, we're under resourced, it's really hard. And so our dollar has to stretch. And like, even talking about all the experiences now that you're bringing them up and asking me these questions, like your dollar has to stretch like the whole time. You have to be smart about your money. Um, and we don't have that luxury of just like, oh, here's, $1,000, here's $1 million, here's
Yeah.
10 million to go spend, which some people do get invested in. And, it's kind of fun money. Like it's okay if they just lose most of it. Whereas for us, it's like, oh, we got a $2,500 grant. That's amazing. Like we need to make this stretch. So that's where I really kind of pivoted my audience and then more was like, okay, let's focus on what do you want to achieve? What are the risks to get there? And like, how can we make the money work for you so that you're making revenue, you're making profit, and you're getting to where you want to go?
Ooh, that's a lot. I mean, because it's scary as a small business to
Yeah.
invest any money, right? Because obviously there's never guarantees whoever you're hiring to do something. So I would imagine, but you're like with what you're doing, it's so strategy focused that I think people are like, okay, she's here to help me with this, with this, with it. Like they can actually see the stepping stones versus more of an abstract thing, whether it's like PR and communications like me, it's becomes harder. Those are usually the first things that get wiped when any company has to cut budget. Those are kind of the first things that get bumped because people don't think it's serious. But I'm like, no, dude, this is when you need it the most. Like,
It's so funny because in my experience, like people are very excited to spend on like, let me do branding, let me do PR and like marketing and all of that. And I'm like, you need a budget, you need finances. And sometimes it can be very difficult to convince people like, hey, I'm going to get you set up in 3 meetings, super simple, walk you through it. You can ask me all the questions or dumb questions you want, like safe space, comfortable space. And yeah, people are like, yeah, not right now. Like, eventually I'll deal with my numbers, or maybe come tax time. And I'm like, no, like, you could be so much smarter with your money throughout the year and make really good decisions if you know what you're looking at and like not
yes.
just spending and then kind of figuring out at the end of the year, did I actually make a profit or was I just
Oh, yeah,
spending?
totally.
So,
No. So
yeah.
as I'm going through that whole process, I mean, it's it's kind of like one of those things where do you need visibility or but like it's two sides of the same
Yeah.
coin because everybody wants to be able to do all of it, but like you said, you have to make your dollar stretch. So what do you focus on first? Do you focus on people like getting the name out and getting people to know you, right? And then you worry about the finances net after that, like how you're going to spend your money, or do you focus on how you're going to spend your money first and invest in somebody who can tell you that so you can have the money to get your name known. It's
That's the interesting thing is like if you know what money you're going to spend and we work on that strategy, then you know like okay, I'm spending money here on PR and marketing with Jessica, or like I'm going to go, get my brands like done or get my website redone. Like where are you going to spend those dollars? Otherwise, you might spend and then realize you have nothing left. Or just spend so much that you didn't look at your numbers and now you're like, oh shoot, like I spent so much of my own savings if you're using your own
yeah.
savings, which I was initially as well. Like there's always some element of bootstrapping initially.
Oh my goodness gracious. That's so crazy that it's just funny because we do come from the different sides. So to see like to hear what you're saying, and I totally actually do. And plus now with me with my business trying to do those things, it's like constant back and forth, especially when you're a small business. So now you're here, you're working, did it take a long time to be able to build your business, or were people seeing the value in that pretty quickly? And how did you compete with those two things that like we were just talking about of people saying, well, I need my branding, I need my website, because it's kind of true, right? If you don't have your website and everything, if you don't have an online presence, to people you don't exist. So people are trying to do both things. So when you're going through with somebody, one, how how was it to be able to get in front pitch and actually have people see the value of that? And how do you work through how do you work through that with people to say, wait, before you start your website, before you do those things,
Yeah, no,
help me out, Mujer.
I love to do hard things. Somehow I put myself in the situations where like I'm trying to bring risk management to small businesses, but that's probably, even though it's a huge risk to start your business, risk management is like the last thing on their minds. They're thinking about all the other things like we were just talking about. So I knew it was going to be a lot of education upfront. So it was slower to build momentum, but I think for me, when I talk to people about it, it was more like, this is how you're going to grow your business and scale your business. Like, it's almost like, what is the end goal? And I can help you get there through managing your risks, whether that's financial, let's create your budget, like whether it's more strategic, like, do you actually have a strategy in place? And part of that could be PR and marketing. I just would identify it, but then I would outsource to someone else and say, okay, here's some experts that can help you with that. So we'd still identify the risk of that. So it was more like, what is the end goal, which is to grow and scale your business? Like, where are you trying to get to? And then let's like talk through it. So So sometimes I do reframe it as like not talk so much about risk. It's risk management for you. It's really business strategy, financial foundations, like process optimization, and more like your infrastructure of your business. So it's a lot of education initially. And I think that's also kind of segue into why I wrote the book, because the book really consolidated everything that I had learned from all of these big companies and what they were doing around their vendors and their customers, like how they were approaching strategy, how they were approaching DEI, like and taking those stories and mistakes that I saw them making that we could do a lot better, and like learn from them and actually do like grow our business in a different way, and not, waste money, because we don't have money to waste in our community. So
Ain't
yeah,
that the truth?
it took time. And yeah, the book really, I shifted focus to the book. And so now that I have the book, it's really helped serve as a stepping stone to say, hey, here's the book, like learn what I mean by risk management, by embracing risk in your business, how it's going to help you learn my frameworks, like my thought process. And then people can kind of come to you and say, okay, like now I understand, let me work with you. So it's really
Oh my gosh, it's like a memo basically on why they should hire you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they say if you write a really good nonfiction business book, like that's your business. It's your $20 business card, which is great. So it's good to hand out. Like it's good for people to buy, to start to discover you. It's really kind of that pipeline for you.
I mean, I would literally, you went into the question that I was about to ask in regards to how the book came about, but obviously you just explained that. And I think that's so awesome because there are a lot of business books out there and people are constantly trying to seek out information. However, sometimes it becomes overwhelming when you're trying to seek out information because advice is like assholes. Everybody has one, right?
Very true.
But when you have somebody who's has the background that you have, who also likes to make sure that she's representing the cultura and making sure that, where she's coming from. Obviously, you're crazy smart, Rosalie. I already know that. But the fact that you are building something not for yourself, but not just for yourself, but you want to help build people within the community to help them be able to reach their goals and everything, and saying like, and building this and writing this book as an introduction so people can start understanding what it actually is, right? But as they're building their business, why they want to think of these particular things, or why do you want to do this or do that, or the things that maybe so often, like me being more of a creative person, I would probably never think about, or things that I have to worry about or think about, but my brain doesn't naturally go there. It's so awesome to be able to have a resource that speaks to our comunidad, because like I said, we can go into analysis paralysis with all of the information there. What are a couple of things that you would say that you would get from your, like, people would get from your book that they would maybe not necessarily get from any other type of business book?
Yeah. And you touched on a lot of points where it's like, there's so much information out there. It's also the way that they communicate that information. It's super maybe technical, like you don't feel yourself being seen in the book. Whereas in my book, you will see yourself seen. Like I'm speaking in a friendly, like I'm your amiga, like just, telling you the real story. Like this is, what happens. Like this is how you can do it different, but it's very friendly, like very, embracing of like, okay, I recognize like this is hard. So like it's not technical at all. And there's Spanish in the book. So I wanted people to feel seen because it was friendly, because there was Spanish in the book, because I had stories that resonated and the stories were short. And then I kind of go into the debrief of like, okay, this is what you can do. I go through like a lot of different examples and things like that, but it's not like boring, technical, like super resource heavy. And so I really feel like it's a easy, like if you start reading it, like you could read it in a day. Like it's a very easy read. And that's the kind of the feedback I've gotten from when I was writing the book as the beta readers, and even like during the reviews and everything, that it really resonates with audiences like us of entrepreneurs who are either thinking about starting their business, have already started and are kind of growing, or the ones that are scaling. Because so aside from kind of the friendly aspect, the book is really meant to grow with your business from start to grow to scale, because I have so many stories in there and not all of them will resonate at once. Like you might see yourself in some stories now, you might see like other stories that you're like, oh, I'm not there yet, but I want to be. And then other ones might not apply yet. So it's really something you can keep coming back to say like, okay, this is how I can plan a project. These are the things I should have. This is how I can exit, how I can hire, like what I should have as part of onboarding. Like I do address so many different risks. So it's a very holistic book of how do you build your business, foundation wise, strategy wise, processes, finances, all of that. And so that's why also I broke it out into 4 different areas. So I have mindset, I have strategy, I have like the processes and the finances, and then I have transformation for any time you make like big pivots and all of that. So the book is also meant to grow with you, and really just teaches you that you are a risk taker and you just figure out what risks you want to take at which time.
Yeah, no, I think it's so neat. And now I have to admit, I went to your book launch and all of the copies were already spoken for, so I still have not got my copy.
That's okay. I'll have to mail you one. I have some here. I have this one in the box, but I have I'll send this one to you after.
Oh, thank you. I was like, oh, and I was like, wait, they're all gone.
Yeah, I still have some here that I mail out directly. Yeah. Otherwise,
where I no, I think that's such an amazing thing. As you have not only built your business but written this book, what have been the biggest challenges that you have faced that maybe you're like, is this right for me? But obviously you've been able to kind of just push through. And how were you able to push through? Because sometimes there's times where we're just like, is this really meant for me? And something has to happen to be able to say, okay, yes, I'm still going.
yeah, no, the book was a very, very challenging process, probably one of the hardest things I've ever done. Like it took 15 months end to end, so it's really something you have to dedicate yourself to. Um, one of I guess the biggest things was just the identity shifts. Like in even when you're reading the bio, and like that's why I write it that way. Like I recently added author to my identity because it's very much a shift. Like even as you're writing the book, you're like, can I do this? And then you're finishing the first draft and you're like, wow, like I actually wrote a whole like first draft, a manuscript of a book, which I never thought I would do. And then you're going into publishing, you're like, are people gonna like the book? And then it's in people's hands, and are they gonna like it when they read it? And so it still feels kind of weird to be an author. Like I don't even think it's fully sunk in yet. Like I know I wrote a book, I know I've sold hundreds of copies. Um, but I think back to when I was going to different book launches and stuff, and I'm like, oh wow, they're an author, they're so cool. And I don't necessarily like I'm a human just like everyone else. Anyone can write a book. So it's really like an interesting identity shift that I happily accept. But yeah, I'm still kind of figuring out how I wear it. So I'd say probably identity, and then yeah, just the time, the 15 months that it took. You really have to push yourself and kind of get yourself in like, okay, I need to do this much, at least like a lot of littles make a lot. So do a little every day and you are going to get there, because sometimes you do feel like, oh my gosh, I got so many pages to either write or to edit. And sometimes the creativity just doesn't flow necessarily. So you have to kind of go with whatever flow you're feeling that day and like write a lot, write a little. And sometimes you would go a week or 2 weeks without writing. And that was okay in the beginning. But then once I was reaching like, okay, I need to get my stuff together, then I had to like write every day pretty much. Um, and there's a lot of tedious aspects to there's like the creative part of writing the book, but then once you actually write it, doing all of the editing, but then also the cover, the fonts, like what goes at the top, are your pages at the top or the bottom or the right corner or the bottom, like left corner, whatnot. Like there's a lot of little details, which I'm very like detail oriented. So I liked, but also it was a lot, like even more, more than my taste. And I wanted it to be a good quality book, good quality, cover and formatting inside. So there was a lot of dedication to it.
I mean, yeah, I would imagine there would have to be. And plus, and then all of, like you said, all of the editing and what is the most important? What can be left out? What's going to give enough that you're giving enough information, but then also you don't want to give away the whole kitchen sink because you still need business for yourself.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a balance of like what do I share? I also don't want to overwhelm people with like this is everything that could possibly happen to your business. So I try to pick, key stories that would help you throughout the different stages. Um, and yeah, not giving away everything or too much information. But there's quite a bit in the book. Like I think I did strike the right balance of like there's enough in here where like if you can't afford services yet or you're not in a, have a time capacity to have one-on-one services, like you can just use the book and apply it to your business. And then if you're ready, then yeah, reach out to me and we can talk.
So I have been fortunate to be with Rosalie and some other amigas when she won an award for her book. How many awards here in San Diego? How many awards have you won for this book? Because it is making an impact. You have made ripples in the industry because you're winning awards for this book.
Yeah, no, I was very excited. So I won two awards to answer your question. So the International Latino Book Awards and then the Living Now Book Awards. Um, Both amazing, super proud of both of them. One is obviously for the Latino community, any Latino, Latina, Latinx authors that apply, and that's the one that you came to support me at the ceremony. So super excited, you and two other Latina entrepreneurs, which I was so grateful for to have that San Diego comunidad like show up for me because it wasn't even in San Diego proper. So you guys had to drive out to see me for like an hour or so. So super excited and grateful for that. And then the other one is Living Now Book Awards, which is really books to build a better life, which is exactly what I want to do through entrepreneurship for us to have a better life. So super proud of both of them. And yeah, so very excited.
So what is next? What's on the horizon for you, amiga?
Oh, people have been asking me about the audiobook. Um, and like when is that going to come out? And it's been on my radar, but I don't know the timeline at the moment. I'm hoping sometime in
Are
2026.
you going to do it yourself?
I think I'm going to do it myself. Yeah. I think I can put the words, like bring the words to life in the way that I envisioned it. Bring the Spanish words to life as well. So I think I will be doing it. But I know it does require a lot of effort and like dedicated time. So I want to be in the right mindset and space to do that. So yeah, for now it's an ebook and paperback. And so yeah, I would say the audiobook, and then the other thing I'm looking to tap into is bulk sales and like working with like entrepreneurship like classes like at universities and potentially bringing it to universities or bringing it to accelerators that work with businesses. So there's relationships I'm building that I want to do that for, is either like have a copy of the book or present. I do currently, at least I present on the book with the asset program. So their Mujeres de Asset program that I was also a part of. I presented a couple of the years to future cohorts on the book. So really just getting more visibility and working on that piece of it. Yeah, so those are
And where
probably,
can people find where? Oh, sorry. What'd you say?
I said those are probably the two big things, is really the audiobook and then the bulk sales, aside from obviously bringing in kind of one-on-one business from the
Yeah.
book.
So where can people find your book?
People can find my book anywhere books are sold online. So it was definitely very important to me to be able to be at independent bookstores. So I did list on Ingram. My hybrid publisher was like, you just need Amazon. Like Amazon has 80+% of the book sales. And I was like, no, I need to be in Ingram. I need to be at the independent bookstores so that my Ecuadorian bookstore in Queens has it and they're able to sell it directly. So, and obviously everyone else, but there's a specific one where I did a book launch there as well. So always trying to support the community. And so I'm on Ingram, which means I'm at independent bookstores online. Some of them will have it in store, but mostly it's going to be online because that's really where entrepreneurs find their business books. Like usually in person, it's more like either like fiction books or kids books or whatnot. So
Yeah.
online, and then on Amazon, like love-hate relationship with them. But I want the book to be in
True.
your hands. I prefer it to be in your hands and not be in your hands. And if that's the easiest place and the most convenient place for you to get it, then fine, so be it. At least buying it, I get, the royalties. So some of the money it's not all going to Amazon. Um, so yeah, Amazon, independent bookstores, and then you can reach out to me if you want a signed copy and I can mail one directly to you.
Which you should all do if you're trying, if you, it's always good to find out this information, even if you're thinking about building a business,
Yeah.
because I think it's so, just to be able to have an idea of what has to be done. Because so often, how many of us just start with stuff we don't really know what we're supposed to do? We just are like, we just do it, right? And which is good to a certain extent, but also maybe we should get an idea of what we should do, where we should start.
Yeah, and
That
it's
might
not
be a good thing.
before it was more like, I did it alone, I had to figure it out, and it's like now there are other resources coming out. You don't necessarily have to do it fully alone. Like, equip yourself with the books that are being written by Latina authors, or Black authors that actually have our experience of our community and how hard it is to build a business and can offer a different perspective. And then the other thing I'll comment is that the book is meant for entrepreneurs. It's talking you how to, grow and scale your business, but it's also for like intrapreneurs. Like even if you're at a corporate company, if you have a team or something that you're building, like there are stories in there that will resonate with you. And especially the mindset section, like where I'm talking about just risk in general, how to approach it, how to think about different things. Like there are things that are applicable for professionals as well. So I've gotten that feedback as well. That's more of like a secondary thing, to where my original aim is, but anyone can benefit from the book, even if they're a professional.
You also have a quiz people can take. What does
Yeah.
that quiz entail? And what
Yes.
does it reveal?
So it reveals that you are a risk taker, but which kind of risk taker are you? So it's really revealing your archetype as a risk taker, because that's what I like to say is everyone is a risk taker. It just depends what your level is and like what risks do you like to take. Are you very like calculated risk taker? Like, do you like to think about it a lot? Are you very much like analyze, analyze, analyze and very like prepared? Are you more of like a wild child and you just take all the risks and like don't really, you're just like, it'll figure itself out. Like, I'm okay. I have a big risk appetite. Or are you still figuring it out, which is also possible. So I think it's like 10 questions, super simple. Like it's kind of like a BuzzFeed quiz where he's like, you just take it, you get your archetype, and then it gives you some suggestions on like, what does that mean for you? Like, this might be, does this sound like you, like what this means for you if you're starting your business or if you're already like growing or scaling, and what things to think about next. So I love the quiz. Like I also spend a lot of time doing that. So yeah, I encourage you all to take it if you want to figure out what type you are.
Oh my gosh. Well, make sure to, Rosalie, I can't believe we just flew through that. Flew through that. But I want to make sure if there's anything else that you want to add, if there's anything that we didn't touch on that you want to make sure gets shared, the floor is yours, my friend.
I mean, I honestly would just encourage people to embrace risk, buy the book, and reach out to me if you want to do a cafecito chat. I know we started talking about like networking and how to build a business. Like networking was huge, and networking in the sense of building comunidad and having those connections. Like reach out to people, like how you and I connected and are now friends. Like it was really just reaching out and saying, hey, can we chat? Like either in person, cafecito. So if you are thinking about starting a business, if you're already starting a business, and you want to grow it or scale it, like definitely reach out. I'm happy to do like a 15-20 minute cafecito. I'm always trying to expand the community, and also connect you to other people. Because as soon as you tell me I'm trying to do this or this, I'm like, oh, you should talk to this person. You should talk to that person. So reach out to me for a cafecito chat. I would really appreciate it.
And we will make sure to include all of her social media, website, book, all of the things. Rosalie, I'm so happy you're the last interview before we hit 300 episodes.
So wild, 299, and congrats to you. How does it feel to be approaching 300?
Surreal, I
Yeah.
guess surreal. It's one of those things. It doesn't feel. I mean, it's been what almost 6.5 years at this point. It doesn't feel like it's been that long because I absolutely love what I do, and I'm so otra vez, for the comunidad, right? Of everything that we're doing. And the fact that I get to talk to so many people, I think I didn't do an actual head count, but I'm pretty sure we're over like, we're probably close to like 275 guests. Because there was a
Wow.
couple, maybe between 250, 275, because there's been some solo episodes,
Mhm.
some like repeat episodes over the summer, but we only did that for a couple of summers. And now, because now I'm like, you know what? I'm taking my break. I'm taking,
Oh, that's so impressive. I'm so proud of you. I do want to say that. Like, you tell people stories and you've been doing it for years. So it's super, super important. I appreciate how much love you poured into me, and I can only imagine what you've poured into everyone else who you've interviewed and met with, become friends with. So I love that you're highlighting us, and you're also highlighting wine and Latino and wine brands at that. So I love it.
yeah. Ooh, look, I'm getting watery eyes right now. Because
Congrats, too.
like
No,
I
you
said,
should be very
it's,
proud of yourself. I hope you take your flowers. I hope you celebrate. I hope your husband celebrates you too, and your dogs as well. So a lot of
thank
love.
you. I know I'm gonna have to make my husband take me out to a
Yes.
really nice dinner or something. Get some good, nice bottle. Actually, I do have some amazing bottles of wine here, but I'm gonna have to have him do something really. Be like, you're treating me for 300.
Yes, absolutely.
But I no, I appreciate it because and I say this over and over again, and I know some people might be hearing like tired of hearing it, but I only say it because I mean it. Is every person like yourself who you're taking time away to talk to me and share your story. People who are listening are, you know, giving of their time. So it means a lot. Like, and that's something that I hope I don't ever lose. Like, we could blow up and be just huge but that's something that I don't ever want to lose sight of, is that every person who talks to me, every person who listens, they are giving of their time, and they when they don't have to.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
it's something that I hold very near to me, and I hold very dear to me, because and that's not ever anything that I want to lose sight of, because I think when you lose sight of that, you lose sight of the whole purpose of doing what you're doing, if you're not truly grateful and appreciative of the people who are supporting you.
No, we need the human connection. We need the comunidad. So I appreciate you for building it on your podcast and in person. So congrats on 300 episodes. All of
Thank you so much. I'm so excited. Like I said, that as we're approaching that you are my 299th. I was actually, because I was changing things out, and I was like, well, how do I want it? I'm like, no, no, no. And then when me and you were figuring out the time, I was like, oh, this actually works out really well, because now Rosalie gets to be my episode 299. So I was really it was really excited about that, because anytime we're talking, we're not just talking finances, we're talking about, because there's so many people, like what I was saying before, job stability, what is that anymore?
Mhm.
We know that that's just a phrase that means nothing at this point anymore. So there's so many people who are working but are also building a business on the side, and so many, we know that like the fastest growing segment of small businesses are Latinas,
Mhm.
and oftentimes they are doing it side by side with their jobs. So to know that they have a resource that truly speaks to them and is amazing. So I'm so appreciative of you, of
Yeah.
sharing that story and why you're doing it, and really connecting to la cultura in regards to what you're doing. It's just such a beautiful thing, mi amiga.
Thank you. Thank you, amiga. I
So,
appreciate you.
like I said, all of this will be in the show notes. So make sure to connect with Rosalie, follow her on Instagram, LinkedIn, go to her website, buy her book, go to her YouTube, which I will be uh, adding you as a collaborator on the episode on YouTube as well. So
Awesome.
everybody will be able to get that. So one more episode until 300, mi gente. So join us
Yay.
for episode 300. And until next time.
Hola, mi gente. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Wine and Chisme podcast. If you would like to hear more wine and more chisme, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Saludos.